The room fell silent the moment her hands began to move. Fingers trembling, wrists weak, eyes full of fear. The paralyzed deaf girl slowly shaped two simple words in sign language. Please. Help. Me. She could not walk. She could not speak. Most people barely noticed her existence. But in that instant, her silent plea pierced the heart of one exhausted single father, and set off a chain of events so powerful that it would leave everyone who witnessed it in tears. Before this story goes any further, if you believe that kindness still exists in this world, if you believe that one small act can change a life, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel for more stories that remind us what humanity truly means. The girl's name was Aylin. She was 14 years old, though hardship had aged her eyes far beyond her years. A rare illness in early childhood had stolen her hearing first, then slowly taken away her ability to walk. By the time she was 9, she was bound to a wheelchair, her legs thin and unmoving, her world shrinking with every passing year. Her mother had died from untreated complications when Aylin was still small, and her father disappeared soon after, unable or unwilling to face the weight of caring for a disabled child. Since then, Aylin had lived in a state-run care facility that barely had the funds to keep the lights on, let alone provide real therapy, emotional support, or hope. Days blended into one another for her. Gray walls, worn floors, overworked staff, and the constant feeling of being invisible. She communicated through basic sign language, but few people there understood it well enough to truly listen. Most interactions were rushed gestures, polite nods, or sympathetic smiles that never stayed long. At night, she would stare at the ceiling, imagining what it might feel like to run, to hear laughter, to call someone dad and know they would answer. Miles away, another life was quietly unraveling. Ethan Walker was a single father barely holding himself together. At 38, he worked 2 jobs, one as a delivery driver during the day, another stocking shelves at night, just to keep a small apartment and food on the table. His wife had passed away 3 years earlier after a sudden illness, leaving him alone with a 6-year-old son named Noah. Ethan carried guilt like a second skin. Guilt for not being home enough, guilt for being too tired to smile sometimes, guilt for feeling like he was failing at the one job that truly mattered, being a good father. Noah was a gentle child with an unusual sensitivity for someone so young. He noticed things adults overlooked, a homeless man shivering in winter, a stray cat hiding under cars, the sadness behind his father's forced smiles. Ethan often wondered how such a small boy could carry so much empathy in his heart. One rainy afternoon, Ethan's delivery route took him past the care facility where Aylin lived. He had driven by it countless times without a second thought. That day, however, a minor accident forced him to stop. As he waited for paperwork to be cleared, Noah pressed his face against the car window and noticed the building. In the common room, visible through large glass panes, sat a girl in a wheelchair, alone, staring outside as rain streaked down the glass. Something about her stillness caught Noah's attention. He waved. She didn't wave back, but her eyes followed his movement. Ethan noticed too. For reasons he couldn't explain, he felt a tightness in his chest. Later that week, Noah asked if they could go back. Ethan tried to brush it off. Time was money, and money was survival. But Noah persisted in the quiet, unwavering way only children can. Eventually, exhausted and curious himself, Ethan agreed to visit the facility on his one free afternoon. Inside, the place smelled faintly of disinfectant and loneliness. Staff members were polite, but distant. That was when Ethan saw her again. Aylin, sitting near the corner, hands folded in her lap, eyes scanning the room as if searching for something she had long ago lost. Noah walked toward her without hesitation and smiled. She smiled back, small and uncertain. Ethan watched as Noah tried to talk to her, quickly realizing she couldn't hear. He gestured awkwardly, laughed at himself, then simply sat beside her. For the first time in a long while, Aylin didn't feel like a burden or a problem to be managed. She felt seen. Over the next few weeks, Ethan and Noah returned often. Noah would draw pictures for her, point to things, include her in his imaginary stories. Ethan learned that she was deaf and paralyzed. that she had no family visits, that resources were scarce. He also learned bits of sign language, clumsy at first but determined. Each visit chipped away at the invisible wall Aylin had built around her heart. Then came the day that changed everything. Aylin had been unusually withdrawn, her hands shook more than usual, and her breathing was shallow. The staff assumed it was anxiety or fatigue. Ethan sensed something deeper. He knelt in front of her, met her eyes, and slowly signed the few words he knew, asking if she was okay. Tears welled up as Aylin raised her hands with visible effort. Her fingers spelled out words she had never dared to share before. Please help me, not help in the vague way people often promise. Real help. A life, a future, a family. Ethan felt his world tilt. He went home that night unable to sleep. The image of her hands haunted him. He thought of his own son, safe in bed, loved, protected. He thought of Aylin alone in that room, praying silently that someone would care enough to listen. Ethan knew what it meant to be drowning quietly. He had been doing it himself for years. The next morning, he made a decision that terrified him. Ethan began the long, complicated process of becoming a foster parent, specifically requesting Aylin. The obstacles were overwhelming. Financial limitations, medical needs, accessibility requirements, endless paperwork. Friends told him he was crazy. Family members worried he couldn't handle it. Even he doubted himself some nights. But every time fear crept in, he remembered her hands spelling "Please help me." He worked harder than ever, saved every spare dollar, attended training sessions after night shifts, learned advanced sign language, modified his apartment with ramps and safety equipment. Noah watched it all with quiet pride, never once complaining about less time or fewer toys. When Ethan asked him if he was sure about sharing their life with someone who needed so much care, Noah nodded and signed back the only sign he knew, the one Aylin had taught him, family. Months later, the day finally came. Aylin was told she was going on a short visit. She had been disappointed before, so she didn't allow herself hope. When Ethan rolled her into the apartment and Noah ran to greet her, something inside her broke open. The walls, the fear, the years of silence, they cracked. Life wasn't magically perfect. There were hospital visits, sleepless nights, moments of frustration and exhaustion. Ethan struggled, often wondering if love alone was enough. But slowly, miracles happened. Not the kind that cured paralysis or restored hearing, but the kind that mattered just as much. Aylin began intensive therapy. Her hands grew stronger, her eyes brighter. She laughed in the quiet way deaf people do, her shoulders shaking, her smile radiant. Noah learned full sign language, becoming her voice in the outside world. Ethan learned that his heart was capable of more love than he had ever imagined. One evening, months later, Aylin surprised them. With painstaking effort, she signed a full sentence without stopping. "Thank you for choosing me," Ethan cried openly, not caring who saw. He realized then that saving her hadn't drained him, it had healed him. The emptiness left by his wife's death didn't vanish, but it softened, filled now with purpose and connection. If this story is touching your heart right now, if you feel that ache behind your eyes, please pause for a moment and engage with this video. Like it, share it, and let others feel this reminder that kindness can change lives. Aylin would never walk. She would never hear music or spoken words, but she gained something far greater. A father who refused to look away, a brother who adored her, and a home where her silence was finally understood. Just before this story ends, we have a special request for you. Please comment one word below that describes how this story made you feel. Hope, love, tears, or faith. Your words matter more than you know. Because sometimes the loudest cries for help are silent, and sometimes all it takes to change a life is one person willing to stop, listen, and answer.